Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're anything like me when it comes to first-person shooter games, you might be one of those players that likes to dive headfirst into the action, even if you're not completely familiar with the game you're in. And of course, there are some games where you just can't kick the door down and expect to come out a winner, and Squad is definitely one of those games. Since I started playing this game a little over a month ago, I've fallen completely in love with it. As a player who usually mains games like Call of Duty and Battlefield, Squad just feels like everything I've wanted from a good shooter. With this game, it's really different, especially when you hop into it. You're going to notice right away that there's no hit markers, there's no live pinging, and there's little to no HUD with an insanely low TTK. Also, I mean, how freaking cool is it that you can drag your down teammates to safety to revive them? This has got to be one of the most intense FPS games I've ever played. Similar to Battlefield, teamwork is heavily rewarded, so if you follow the plan and work with the team to make it happen, good things will come your way. Now, with all of that said, thing is, with Squad, I found that it felt a little complicated and slightly overwhelming at first. Like I mentioned before, this isn't the kind of game that you can just jump into and lay into the W key. With just under 60 hours into the game at this point, I wanted to make a quick start guide about the things I think are important to know for your first matches of Squad. Ultimately, the purpose of this video is to get you into the game faster and equip you with the bare essentials so you might be at least a little less overwhelmed or intimidated by the game, kinda how I felt. One thing I can say, no matter how the game starts for you, is that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. I'll be going over 6 main points today, those being the tutorial, selecting a server, game start and kit selection, the map and HUD, spawning and giving up, and communications, and I'll probably add a couple more tips and tricks at the end. First up is the tutorial. To put it simply, just do the tutorial. You'll get a feel for the movement, the weapons and equipment, and most importantly, you'll learn about the forward operating bases and how they are set up. I'd suggest spending a little bit of time reading about the forward operating base, or FOB for short, the elements of it, and paying attention to the part where you unload the logi and construct the half with your shovel. I'll go over those terms a little bit later on. This is going to be very helpful to understand right away, and once you're familiar with these, they'll come together in-game quite nicely. Once you're done with the tutorial, it's time to select the server to get into your first match of Squad. There are 3 things that I typically look for when choosing a server: the server name, the number of players in it, and the ping. For your first match, look for a server that has new player friendly or something of the like in the name. This is going to save you a potential headache in dealing with salty Squad vets who may not be as willing to teach a new player new things. The next thing that I typically look for is a server that has decent ping, and if there's a decent queue size or amount of players in the server. And if you do find that you're playing in a server for a bit and you like it and plan on returning to it, make sure that you go back to the server screen and favorite it. That way it'll be easier to find the next time you hop on. So once you've selected a server and get loaded into it, you'll need to choose a team. The game's going to automatically give you the option to continue on one of the 2 teams depending on the team balance. You can still choose the team you like if there's a pretty even amount of players. At this stage, it's definitely a good idea to take an extra second to have a look at the team uniforms so you know who to shoot at. Once you've selected the team, you'll be able to get yourself into a squad. Look for a squad that has open spots and is named something to do with being an infantry squad. Stay away from Heli, Armor, Bradley, Striker, or anything that looks to have a specific name in conjunction with vehicles or specific roles. You just need to get into a general infantry squad. Join the squad and then select the Rifleman class. You're going to hear it mostly everywhere that this is the kit you should be starting with, and I 100% agree. Okay, so you've selected a server, got your kit together, and now you're spawning at the main base, or otherwise just called main for short. With the Rifleman class, it's a non-specialized role, so you won't have a specific responsibility right out of the gate, something like a light anti-tank or LAT as you'll hear them called would have. The most responsibility you would have as a rifleman is putting down your ammo bag, and by default that's located on key 6, or you can use your mouse wheel to go through your kit and select what you need. The ammo bag itself has a limited amount of ammunition stock, so you and your team are going to be able to pull supplies from it until it runs dry. If you're pulling ammo for yourself, just keep an eye on how much is left, just in case somebody needs bandages or an extra mag or 2 while you're playing. At this point, you're most likely going to hear your squad leader come through to let you know what the plan is. You'll likely be told what vehicle to hop into and what you'll be doing first. Something like going to drop a radio somewhere or going to secure a first point. All you need to do is listen to the squad lead and make sure you're following. If you want, you can go ahead and let your squad know that you're a little new to the game, so they know to give you a little extra information or direction when things are starting to happen. If you're not used to this kind of game, you're going to notice right away that there's little to no HUD to work with. Nameplates are barely visible, no ammo counts, just magazine capacity estimates, extremely limited on-screen pinging, 0 hit markers, and no crosshair. For real though, these aspects alone really made things weird for me, coming from games that have all of this and then some. With all of this in mind, you're going to be using the map a lot, so you might as well start using it right away and understanding the important aspects. So I'll quickly talk about that. By default, the map is bound to the M key, and the full command map that you can manipulate is on the caps lock key. Since the quick map is quite a reach across the keys, I'd suggest binding it to a more convenient button or key that makes sense for you. Personally, I have my map bound to one of my mouse buttons, and I just keep the command map on the caps lock. So first and foremost, when we're talking about different elements on the map, you should check the command map and look at the legend so you can become familiar with the different symbols and what they mean. There's also a scale at the bottom right of the map that will adjust as you zoom in and out of it, and you can use that to show the distance that you are from objectives or from enemies. And just so you know, one of those scales is going to always show the distance across the grids, so you can kind of quickly get an idea of where something is using the grid lines. When we're looking at the objectives on the map, it's going to depend on what the game type is. Objectives are going to either be capture and control points or territories. These will be clearly marked and obvious on your map. When you're checking your map, be sure to be aware of where the enemies are. You're going to see a lot of references on the map that show where enemies are, and it's going to pop up every now and then on your HUD, but very briefly. Take note that with all enemy markers on your map, they may not be 100% accurate because things happen fast, players are always moving around, and some marks on the map might be old intel where the SL, or squad leader, might have just forgotten to remove. In any case, approach with caution if you're close to an enemy marker on the map. The map to me looked a little overwhelming at first, but honestly, you're going to get used to it so fast, and I'm confident that's going to be like second nature in no time. So at some point, you're going to get shot, and you're going to be left there to suffer as you wait for someone to revive you. You're going to be presented with a couple options on the screen, to give up or call for a medic. You're also going to see your bleed out timer, and you're also going to see how far away and if there is a friendly within range. Just to note on that, any player on your team, regardless of their kit and role, can pick you up. You probably would have learned that in the tutorial. I think I could confidently say that giving up quickly and frequently is more or less frowned upon because you forfeit a ticket every time you give up. The etiquette here is to not give up if there's a teammate around you. You get a little over 4 minutes of bleed out time, which is a lot of time to give your team to come back and get you. However, there are going to be times where, in my opinion, it's better to give up than to wait. I know that most of the community is going to hate me for this, but I firmly believe that there are situations where it's just more valuable for a player to give up a ticket quickly so they can get back in the fight to continue supporting the squad. When you're spawning back in, make sure you're going to the nearest hab that either your SL tells you to spawn at, or if it's one that just makes sense to go to in order to get back to the fight. Just note that every time you spawn, you should try to rearm, especially if there's enough ammunition at the spawn point. First thing I want to talk about when it comes to comms with your team is how squad is really different from most other shooters when it comes to actually identifying and letting know your team where the enemies are. A lot of other games will have live HUD pings. You'll be able to see pings on your compass that have been laid out on the map. Well, that's just not the case here. You're better off identifying where enemies are by describing the environment that they're in. So for example, if the enemy is within a building, you want to talk about how many floors it is, the color of the building, what window they're in, etc., etc. If it's in the forest, you may want to describe a boulder or maybe a tree line. Ultimately, the best thing you can do outside of just giving compass directions, give a simple north, south, east, west, and say that they're within a general area. That's going to help your team out a lot more than just giving out a compass direction, because they're not going to really see the same thing you are, because they're not going to be in your exact spot when you're looking at that compass. Anyways, here are the few terms that I find are most commonly said but may not be obvious to new players. A logi, logistics truck. LAT, light anti-tank units. HAT, heavy anti-tank units. A HAB, team-wide spawn point. FOB, forward operating base. TOW is a guided missile launcher, usually called out when one needs set up, or if there's an enemy one. A VIC is a vehicle. And main is main base where you first started the game. Now, there's two last things I want to leave you with before ending this video. The first thing is, Get good at hip firing, especially at close ranges. You're going to find that hip firing is going to save you more than taking that time to pull that scope to your face. The second thing is take some time to, learn more kits and factions in the Jensen training range. You can hone your skills there, become more familiar with all the kits and weapons, and get a chance to try out all factions and their vehicles. Well, that's about it for me. I hope that this quick start guide to Squad is a little bit helpful for new players out there. Feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know if there's anything you think I should have added, anything that, you think is important that I missed. And, for sure, give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, depending if you liked it or not. And if you're interested in seeing more of my videos in the future, click that subscribe button and, click the little bell there so you can get notified whenever I put up something new. And honestly, so far, without even having hit that 100-hour playtime, I am having such a blast with this game, and I'm really sure that you are going to have a lot of fun with this. And it's going to be unlike any other shooter that you've played, and I promise you, if you like shooters, I bet you're going to continue to play this game. Thanks so much, everyone, and I really hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you on the battlefield. Peace out.